Greetings. Thank you all for taking the time from your busy schedules to join us today. We know that you're very busy and that your time is valuable, and we really appreciate it. I am Kara Pepper Day, Account Director up here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm joined by Tim Jones, GreatVines co-founder, Chief Customer Success Officer, and beverage industry veteran.
Hi, everyone.
It's nice to see the overwhelming demand for today's webinar, so thank you all again for joining us. We're excited to dive into the important topic of trade promotion management. We'll be highlighting on budgets, programs, and expenses, and really focusing on executing your strategy and maximizing your trade spend investments. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone is on mute, so please type your questions over in the panel on the right side of your screen. With the large interest that we've received, we expect we'll get some good questions, and we will have a Q&A session at the end following the presentation. As always, if there's more specific questions that arise, please let us know, and we'll follow up directly with you. Tim, I will pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Kara. Very excited today to be talking about trade promotion management, or TPM. It's a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, having grown up in the beverage alcohol business and in sales and trade marketing. Managing budgets and executing a sales strategy was something that I built my career around. So this is a great opportunity for us to talk through some best practices and talk about some solutions that might work for you and your business. So I'm going to get started here with a few PowerPoint slides, and then we're going to do a bit of a demo. But to really tee this up, I think successful trade promotion marketing or trade marketing is really about hitting your sales goals while staying within budget, right? And that is, I think, the end game for most people in the industry, whether you're a supplier or distributor. And in particular, doing this while staying on strategy, because as we all know, there are the right and the wrong ways to make sales numbers. And if you've got the right tools in place to manage the execution of your teams, your trade, marketing, and your sales teams, then you should be able to hit your numbers while maintaining your strategy and staying within your budget. And that's what we're going to talk about, how you can do this today, and our solution and how it helps you do that. So what does TPM excellence look like? Really, there are some key features and benefits that you need to call out here. But first and foremost, visibility is one of the critical things, right? You need to have complete visibility to the entire process from the top down. So not just what your trade budget and spending plans are, but also how that translates into your sales goals. You also need to be able to have a really solid integration with your ERP system or accounting system. This is so that you can share some transactional data between a system that you're using out in the field to execute with and your back-end master data system. And so integration with other systems is critical. You also have to have the ability to clearly allocate funds and identify who is accountable or responsible for those budgets, and pass that responsibility along down the chain of command so that people in the field know how much money they have to spend and take responsibility for spending it wisely, right? And you need a system to be able to facilitate that process. You need to have, the details of all the local initiatives that you're doing. Part of the problem with TPM systems or trade promotion management in general is that the details get lost out in the field, and the other stakeholders aren't sure what's going on and how budgets are being spent, and you need a tool to be able to have those details ready available for everyone. You need dashboards to highlight the status of your programs and your budgets with some key metrics around what's been spent and what budgets are left, etc. And all this needs to be visible to all the stakeholders. You also need to be able to measure it, right? So program effectiveness and ROI is critical. You need a system that can enable you to measure it. And lastly, we believe that having your sales depletions and even shipment data integrated into your TPM solution is absolutely critical, so that you can actually simply do the kind of analysis that we mentioned with program effectiveness and ROI. So combining sales data with trade promotion data is really important, and you need a system that can do that. So this is an example of maybe what a KPI or top line dashboard might look like for an executive, right? Showing things like, look, what are my depletions versus my goal year to date? I can see here, okay, great, I'm ahead of goal. I'm 11.3% above my goal so far year to date. And also, how far of the way am I there? How far along am I? Well, in this case, I'm 14.5% of my way to my total year goal. Now, how much money have I spent and do I have left to spend is the next critical question, right? So another KPI or metric you might want to put on this dashboard is, hey, how much of my trade budget is remaining? And in this case, I've got 94% remaining, which is a great position to be in, because I'm only 14% of the way there, but I should have enough money to do what I need to do to get there to at the end of the day. You know, simple charts and graphs showing remaining budget versus spent by brand, and even things like rate per case, right, are critical things for executives and critical metrics for finance and executives to be able to examine and make use of. So one of the things that we have in our solution at GreatVines is a methodology around plan, execute, measure, and refine. We enable you to plan your trade marketing and trade spend programs. You enable you to go out and execute those in the field and then measure them, and come back and examine do the analysis and make refinements and make changes and start all over again. But hopefully this process enables you to be very organized and to actually sell more and sell better. So let's talk about some of the stakeholders and the roles they play in the TPM process. So executives need to develop a plan, right, that delivers the goals, right? That's what happens at the top level. Finance needs to be able to control the funds to fit into that plan. Marketing needs to define the strategy, right, of what types of programs and promotions are you needing to execute in order to maximize and leverage your brand's features and position in the market. And then sales needs to be able to execute local strategic programs that are going to deliver the cases to meet the goals. So these kind of are four buckets of the stakeholders and each one of their roles and responsibilities, and you need a system that enables you to address all of it. So some of the common challenges you'll find are, look, executives are curious about what's our plan, right? They may not know or be able to have full visibility into the plan, from goals to budgets and how it's being spent and where they stand. Finance is always wondering, you know, where's the money going and who's in control of allocating and spending it, right? They've got some concerns about control over the spending, and oftentimes don't have visibility into it. Marketing are wondering, hey, are we executing the strategic initiatives that we've developed, right? I mean, we give them some money to the field and we don't know exactly where it's going, right? So that's a big question marketing always has, and it often leads to, you know, inter-company maybe not being aligned, or marketing and sales not being aligned, and having trust issues. So you need a system that helps give that visibility and gets everyone working on the same team. Regional managers are wondering, hey, what initiatives should I be pursuing, and what's the budget for them, right? And then as you get down lower into the field, the guys are wondering, hey, what's my budget for this? And a person that's out in the field every day working either with distributors and even key accounts, they're asking questions like, hey, can I do this? Can I run this program? And if you don't have a system to manage all this, you're going to waste time and you're going to waste effort, and you're going to create a lot of frustrated people. So putting a tool in place can really deliver value in terms of time saving, but also clear visibility to make sure people are executing the right strategy and sticking to the plan. So visibility is a key. Executives should know, hey, how is the plan unfolding, right? Where do I stand versus my goals, and how much money have we spent, etc. Finance needs to know what the actuals are versus the plan. And not just the spends, but also depletions, right? They need to be able to see, hey, how are we performing and how much are we spending versus what we've set out to do. Marketing needs to know, how the funds are being deployed and if it's working, right? Are these strategies they put in place with programs that they've asked the field to implement, are they actually driving sales and working? And sales is always asking, hey, how much money do I have left, right? I need to run a program. I need to know if I have the money to do something. So dashboards like this one are critical to be able to show details about programming, but also budgets and where you stand with balances, etc. We'll get into more of that in a second. So some desired results you're really looking for at the end of the day are executives are going to say, hey, I know exactly where we stand. Finance is going to be able to say, our spending is under control, right? I have no surprises, which finance hates, and you need a tool to make sure you limit those. Marketing is going to be able to say, hey, we're acting strategically to build the brands. And sales is going to be able to say, I know what funds I have available to me, so I can go out and make our goals. Now the team is ready to execute and not have any surprises, right? And they're fully maximizing all resources. So one of the key critical elements to a TPM solution is it needs to have a very flexible data structure, right? And the structure that we put in place with GreatVines involves a couple of different objects, right? We start at the top level with budgets, and budgets can be organized either by time period or by market or by brand. We give the flexibility to organize your budgets the way that it makes sense for your organization so that you can plan the way you're comfortable planning, okay? Underneath budgets, you've got some more buckets, all right, to split the budgets up. And you can do that by market or by brand or by channel, right? Whatever makes sense to your organization. But then at the lower level, you've got your programs. Your programs are your specific executions that are going to be done. And these are going to have a lot of attributes on them, right? They're going to be by spend type, by a specific strategy, or by channel, or even by account. This is where the rubber meets the road and the details are really important. So the programs roll up to the budget plans that roll up to the bigger budgets with all the flexibility you need to plan properly. So here's an example. I might have a budget that's a Florida 2016 budget for a brand, Grey Vodka. And under that, I've got these programs running. Right? I've got off-premise tastings or bartender events or scans or price support for drink menus or incentives for my distributor. Those are the programs at the executional level, and they roll up. Now, getting all these programs onto a calendar is also critical for that visibility piece we've been talking about. At GreatVines, we've got a way to make visibility all the way through to the calendar, a part of the solution. And so you can see all of your programs by type, by market, by date, and the details. With clicks, you can see from the calendar, you can see what's the budget, how much has been spent, what's left, and even create new programs right from the calendar. But then we've got the transaction side. So what happens when you spend the money? We just talked about the plans, but now as expenses are coming in, you need a system that's flexible enough to be able to do to capture planned spends or POs. A lot of customers don't use sort of a PO system, but if you do, we can handle it at GreatVines and really be able to capture those planned spends. You also are going to obviously be able to handle invoices as they come in. And through the integration with your back-end accounting system or ERP, you can either have invoices pushed into GreatVines TPM solution, or you can create the invoices directly in GreatVines. You've got the flexibility to do it either way and have workflow go back and forth between the two systems. And then, of course, you've got to be able to handle the expenses, the line item expenses that are hitting against those invoices. And you need a workflow process, right, that enables you to have these the invoices and charges come in and have people in the field be able to approve them and code them back to the right program. And that's what our system enables you to do. So the workflow involved can be across lots of different areas within TPM. One of them is around, programs. So if someone in the field wants to run a program, they're able to get into the system and see what their budgets are. They're able to put in all the details about the program, the specifics, when it's running, what's the goal of the program, what's the budget of the program, etc., and then submit it for approval. Have it go to their manager, who can approve it, and then have them even a second level of approval that goes to finance, and they can approve it. And you're able to track all these approval processes right here in the tool, and create custom ones that fit the workflow that you want within your organization. You can have the same type of workflow around invoices. When an invoice comes in and it needs to be coded or approved, you can have them submitted for approval before they get submitted back to the ERP to get paid. Okay. So we've talked about a little bit of some best practices and sort of some of the basics around the architecture of what a good TPM system should look like. We're going to jump into a demo now and show you some screens within GreatVines on how our tool enables you to execute your TPM strategy and your sales strategy. So let me switch over here and go into GreatVines. Here I am logged into to GreatVines in the browser, and I'm looking at a screen that is my trade promotion management application. I've got all my different tabs here that outline different objects and data tables and pieces of data where users can interact with these things. But I'm jumping right away to show you a dashboard first. It's critical to have really advanced analytics involved with your TPM programs, as you probably know. And we're embedding our advanced analytics good data solution right here into the tool so that you've got not only your TPM stuff, but also your depletions can be integrated here. If you're working with any data provider, whether it be VIP or TradePulse or whomever, we can put all this in one place and enable the analytics. So here's a great dashboard to show as a demonstration of a recap of your TPM, right? I've got my budget reports showing, by budget, what are my amounts, what's been spent, what's the balance and percent remaining. I've got them in different kind of charts and graphs to illustrate this. I can see what's the total of any open invoices that have yet to hit the system that need approval. I've got things like recaps of all the different programs that are running by budget and even program type, right? So whether that be incentives with your distributor or menu placement budgets or price support budgets or POS budgets, you're able to analyze all of your programming and budgets by those spend types, okay? And look at what's the budget, what's been spent, and the balance, right, on an ongoing basis. And charts that show even things like how my, how's my spending break out by spend type, right? So, strategically you can see where your money's going. You can do things that just show invoices that need approval, right, and have these emailed out to people so that they can click through and go in and approve invoices. But data doesn't just live in these dashboards. It can be extracted and sent to people on a schedule. I've got full details, right, of all of our programs that are running that can be filtered, by market or territory or by brand or even by program type, right, for deeper analysis. But this gives that visibility that people are looking for, right? So that marketing knows, hey, in California, for my Cloud Rum brand, I can see that they've got 3 different programs running under the tasting and events program type, and the dates they're running and the dollar amounts associated with them, okay? Recapping all this and total budgets and balances and budgets per case, because I've got depletion data in the system, are all possible here. I've even got the opportunity to look at key account programs. So I can within GreatVines create a program for a specific chain, for example, and all the details related to that program are available for people to view. But I can see what the budget is. I can see how much has been expensed so far and what the balance is on that program. And I can also see how many cases that account has sold. You know, Myers HQ has done 4,000 cases. I've got programs running there this year for about $5,600. I'm spending about $1.28 per case in programming in this chain, right? So I can also see, hey, I've got a lot of other programs like Bar Louie, other customers like Bar Louie. You know, they've done about 356 cases so far year to date. I don't have any programming running with them. Okay, so by account programming and analysis is very possible, as are big roll-ups, right? Within one distributor, I can see how much I'm spending per case by looking at the depletions and the amount budgeted in trade spend in their market. I can look at the budget that I'm spending versus revenue that I'm generating from my brands, and look at the trade spend versus revenue. So in California, I can see on my Cloud Rum, I'm spending about 6% of our revenue is being spent back against trade promotions, right? Looking at these in charts and graphs is really helpful when you're devising a plan and seeing how it's playing out. I've got all my invoices in the system, so I can sort them and view them by invoice status and date, and by vendor or distributor or market, and look at totals and what needs to be coded. So lots of visibility all the way throughout, and the analytics tying to this is a real big part of it. Let's take a step back now. I'm going to go up to my budgets tab. And I'm just going to take a view here, and I'm going to look at all my 2015 budgets. I can see things in real clean screens about highlights and top line about how much is in the budget, how much has been spent, etc. I'm just going to dive into my California 2015 budget. Again, I can see budgeted amounts, how much has been planned to be spent, how much actual spending has hit. And then I can also see the plans down below. So I've bucketed my California budget into brand plans, if you will. So I'm going to take a look at this Cloud Rum 2015 budget in California. So within my Cloud Rum, I can see I've got 237,000 allocated. I'm actually planning right now to spend a bit more than that, so I can have alerts and I can alert finance or even the local market that we may have an issue here. And I can see all the programs that have been planned to run against this brand and this market. I'm going to look at one program in particular here. I really want to see this Bar Nights program. I'm just going to click on it, and very easy to create programs and then edit them moving forward. But I'm capturing here all the details about a program in a market, start and end dates. What are the goals? What's the description of the program? How many cases am I expecting to sell? Who's managing this program at the local level? What's the status? Because I can submit these programs for approval and follow a full-on approval process before anything becomes final and actual. Okay. And then, of course, after I'm executing the program, I've got the expenses that come in, and I can see these expenses right here on a program. But as invoices are entering the system, I'm able to, pull in an invoice, whether the invoice has been sent to the HQ, your headquarters, and accounts payable takes it and puts it into your accounting system. And then it gets created in GreatVines, or maybe the invoice comes right to the person in the market and they can create and enter the invoice into GreatVines directly. But I can get an invoice into the system and capture the basic details about it, and then I can code the invoice, right? I can literally come in and say I'm going to code a portion of this spend to my bartender program, and I'm going to code another portion of this invoice to a print advertising program, right? And do all my line items here. I have images of the invoice and the backups are attached. But once I've got it done and I'm the local person responsible, I can then, of course, approve this or submit it for approval and have the invoice go back to finance and accounts payable to get entered into the system and to get paid. Okay, so it's a nice workflow and it's a nice user interface to be able to manage all these invoices. The last thing I want to show you is really around the program calendar. We've got a real nice interface here to be able to list all the different programs you're running by spend type, by market, by date, and see what's happening. I can then go in and even right here on the calendar, I can click on any one of the programs and I can see the details really quickly. Here's that Bar Nights program I talked about. It was a $15,000 budget. I've spent $6,500 so far, or sorry, I've got a $6,500 balance left. I've spent $8,500. I got $1,500 more planned. So you're seeing all the details. I can edit the program right from here and make changes to it. In fact, right from the calendar, I can come in and can create a new program right from here and put it on the calendar at the same time, that it's being entered into the back end of the system. So this is critical piece to managing and communicating your programming and collaboration across executives, finance, marketing, sales, and even distributors and agencies. All right. So I think, Kara, I've covered off on everything. I know we were trying to stick to a half an hour, and I think we're just about there.
You did a great job. We did have a couple quick questions that came in, so let me pull those up. Can I see hard numbers of actual spend per case?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And while the analysis is sometimes complicated because different programs may be running maybe only for a specific channel or a specific account during a specific time period, you may need to develop custom reporting to be able to do that, but we have that capability here in our analytics tool. I showed a few things before, and like this screen here, you can see I've got a spend per case calculation or metric because I do have all the depletion and sales data, right, in GreatVines, and I've got all the budget and expense data here too. So yes, you can do that.
Okay. We have one around approvals. Can you have multiple levels of approvals for programs and
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We are taking advantage of a really strong back-end infrastructure here built on the force.com from salesforce.com. So we do have the ability to create approval processes that are custom for your organization and have the workflow flow right through from one person to another. So maybe it needs to get first approved by a regional person, and then it needs to be approved by finance, and all those steps can be baked into the approval process.
Okay, this is a really good question too. Can dollars be reallocated after final budgets are set for the year?
Yes, they can, and we've built something because a customer had asked us to about a year ago to be able to do that. We've got something we call it program transfers, but yes, you are able to move money around using this interface that we've developed. So you're transferring it from a specific program or budget to a new program or budget, and you're expressing the dollar amount that you want to switch or transfer, I should use the right term, to transfer, and you can transfer money from one bucket to another.
Okay. Can we compare budgets from last year to this year for planning purposes?
Sure. Yeah. We know that's a big part of kind of the workflow you're doing when you're doing your planning, and we can do that in a couple ways. We have the ability to actually clone. It's like a copy or clone a budget and a budget plan and programs that you've run in the past, and you can we have a super clone tool here where you can actually clone all a plan in its entirety to be able to just modify it for, let's say, the coming year. So you've got that opportunity, but even in the analytics, you're able to compare, budgets from one time frame to another. So I could have reports run that show my budget in Indiana in 2015 and what is it in 2016 by spend type. So yes, totally possible to do that.
Okay, and here's another good question because we didn't dive very deep into this. Can you explain the difference between the POs and commitment functions, i.e. can GreatVines create POs that can be sent to vendors?
Yes, they can, and the workflow involved with pushing POs back into your ERP system is something that we've done. What happens to them from there, I think, would be up to you if you needed to get them, sent to vendors or what have you. But yes, you're able to create a PO that links to a specific program or budget plan and budget, and sort of lay out what that is against a particular vendor, and have that be part of your process. And then when the actual invoice comes in, you are able to then code the invoice and link it back to the PO and the planned spend. So these are kind of what we call planned spend, or POs are all sort of centered around that committed sort of flag that we put on those records. And of course you can report on that then and show me all of my planned spends or POs that I've committed against the budget.
Okay, and then this will be our last question. We had so many good questions. Is there a way to evaluate the performance of promotions in the module, or a separate piece of it?
There is, and I'm assuming that question is really around sales, right, that are generated by a particular program. And as I mentioned before, different programs have different measurements, right? If you're running I think in some of our data here, we've got a program where we're sending people from Bonefish Grill to a winery to do some trade education, right? And have them go back and be able to train their wait staff. So there's a spend associated with that. We can, in the system, obviously, we can look at each one of the programs by account, analyze the cost, and then analyze how many cases that particular account has purchased from the distributor, so depletions, right, for that account during a specific time period, and you're able to then analyze the spend per case. So we can set up different custom reports and dashboards that enable you to tweak date frames, time frames, I should say, and accounts to be able to do that type of analysis, because again, we have the sales data and the spend data all in one place.
Yep. As well as the ability to evaluate specific events and instances, capture that specific data as well.
Yep.
Okay, well, we covered a lot of information today. Tim, you did a really great job. Thank you all for joining us. And we did record today's webinar. It will be, you will receive a link with a follow-up email, and you can log in, view this webinar as well as past webinars. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.